Hey, what's going on, leaders, and welcome to this week's Saturday Thinkletter, built for executives, speakers, and transformational leaders who are navigating high-stakes moments and want to turn adversity into their advantage. I'm John Register, your resilience architect, and I am a two-time and two-sport Paralympic silver medalist, and now Hall of Fame speaker. Hey, before we go any further, I want to share with you that I was just named for the second time in 2 years a top 50 global leadership speaker. I remain in the company, the ranks of those I have admired in this business like Tony and Sage Robbins, Brene Brown, Simon Sinek, Jay Shetty, Gary Vee, Adam Grant, and Mel Robbins, and many, many more. Today, I'm elevating a powerhouse guest, Galen Bingham, also known as the Leadership Strategist. It's my hope to have more of those amazing leaders on my podcast, and we'll see what happens with that. Galen drops 3 insights in our conversation that every leader facing pressure, shift, or uncertainty needs to hear. This video Thinkletter is all about more than learning. It's about remembering what you already know and to be true and putting it into actual action. So each section includes a powerful lesson, a short clip from our conversation, a challenge for you to apply it in your life or business. So let's get into it. Section 1 is about amputate to elevate, letting go of external validation. You ever find yourself waiting on applause that never comes, or worse, changing your direction because someone else clapped for something that wasn't even meant for you? Well, in my recent conversation with Galen Bingham, the leadership strategist, I asked him the core question of his whole series. What did you have to amputate in order to elevate? And here's what he said.
Uh, but just to jump in real quick, I'm so grateful you're on. You know, you've accomplished so much, but what have you really had to amputate in order to elevate your life success?
Yeah. For me, I had to, and this is really, really tough. This was really hard for me because of my background. And you mentioned all of my years in corporate America and chasing that dream of sitting in the corner office. I ultimately had to amputate the need and the desire for external validation.
Mm,
No, and the clients I work with today, I believe that we all know what it is that we're here to do. But because that dream doesn't necessarily translate to language easily, we go ask other people to express that dream to us, to tell us about that dream, to translate that dream to us when they don't even know what's going on in their life. But yet we're asking them to tell them what we're supposed to be doing. And so I had to personally amputate the need for external validation about what my purpose, what the dream is that I was given. Because like I said, this is between me and God. Other folks, they don't even understand what they're doing in their life. How in the world can they explain what's supposed to be happening in mine?
What is your story here? Some days I still believe I am living my growth. The need for external validation. I am not sure I have amputated this all the way. There is probably a piece of an amputated arm or leg still holding on that's not severed. I know that is graphic and probably a little bit gross. I still believe I seek eternal validation. When I thought about what Galen was saying, I first thought I was over it. But then I quickly realized how subtle this really can be. For example, after a presentation, I use a third-party source called Talkadot for audience members to evaluate my presentation. It's done in the moment when no one's gone on coffee break or talked to their neighbor. And you know what? I'm looking for validation to my own belief that I did a good job or a great job. What is more dangerous is when I do not think I did a great job or a good job and the audience still thinks I have. I know that doesn't seem like much, but that validation can drive my ego in a self-fulfilling prophetical way. I can say to others, see how my audience validates me? Well, you should too. That just doesn't even sound right, does it? In my leadership, how do I know to validate for course correction? I am going to attend a Toastmasters meeting because I'm working on a new part of my speech. I want to see how my story works. So I do want validation. That is relevant to my audience. How do you handle validation from others? Do you crave it or do you dismiss it? Or is it something in between, like trying to learn something new? What Galen said is so real, especially for executive leaders navigating high stakes transition. We often get stuck chasing titles, chasing feedback loops, and metrics that don't align with our purpose. We look outward to figure out what to do next when the real work starts inward. The cost of not amputating that need for validation or burnout, decision, fatigue, people pleasing, that kills productivity. And in decisive times, it's a leadership death spiral. Galen said, this is between me and God. Other folks don't even know what's going on in their own lives. How can they tell me what to do in mine? Amen to that. That's truth. That's leadership. Well, that cleared it up a bit for me as well. If you are on purpose, you do not need others to validate you who are unsure of their own purpose. Hang out with people who are assured of their purpose. So here's the journal question I'll leave with you today. What are you still holding on to because someone once clapped for it? And what could you elevate if you let that go? The full conversation's up with Galen on YouTube. You don't want to miss it. Section 2, stop waiting for permission. Lead anyway. We love to talk about courage, but let's be honest, we often want someone else to go first. Someone to tap us on the shoulder and say, now you should lead this one here. But if the tap never comes, in this next clip, my conversation with Galen, he talks about what he calls a Moses moment. That moment of disbelief where you think, surely not me. So let's go watch the clip.
And so then they usually have what I call a Moses moment where they say, are you serious? Are you sure you're talking about me? You're not talking about my brother? You're talking about me? I'm supposed to be doing that? Yeah, that's why you were created.
Yeah.
And then my job shifts to giving them the courage to take the steps that they already know that they need to take in order to fulfill their purpose for being on this planet. And I'm going to use your words to amputate this need for external validation. You were born with everything that you need to be who you are designed to be. If you weren't, then that would be cruel, right? It would be cruel to charge you with doing something and then not equip you with the tools or the ability to learn what it is that I need for you to do. That would be cruel. And I believe that you were at birth given everything that you need in order to be who I need for you to be. And it's our job to find that purpose and then start stepping into it. Find the resources to develop it, to nurture it, to mature it. If I can be of support or assistance on that journey, I'd love to. But it's your job to find your thing and then get on with being the greatest in the world at whatever that is.
The person who gave me the courage to take the steps I needed to take after I had my injury is my wife, Alice. I remember it as if it were yesterday. She had wheeled me from my hospital bed to an inaccessible playground. She and John Jr., they went over on the swings, and I was parked in that chair for about 20 yards from them. Realizing that I was unable to move out of that chair, realizing that I was not able to be on the other side of Alice to push John's feet back on the swing as she pushed him forward, realizing that I was now at the mercy of others caused me to lose it. I began to weep uncontrollably. Alice saw something that wasn't right and she came running over. She wrapped her arms around me and said, "Baby, what is going on?" And it was in that moment that I articulated to her everything that was in my head the night before. And I questioned my identity. Who am I now with this one leg? It was brutal. Then Alice broke the silence, as only a great wife can. She is the only one who is created to walk by her husband's side. She came in as the paraclete and said, "You know what, John? We're going to get through this together. This is just our new normal." She was calling me to greater, Alice was coaching me, not with the answer, but with the mission to take the next step, and that she would be by my side every step of the way. I mean, every hop of the way. Galen said his job as a coach isn't to give people the answers, it's to give them the courage to take the steps that they already know they need to take. Real leadership doesn't come from a certificate. It comes from and comes with conviction. Waiting for someone to tell you you're ready, that's a trap. Borrowed time has a high interest rate. Burnout, frustration, regret. These days, we don't need more leaders following a playbook. We need more leaders writing new pages. So here's your question. What decisions are you hesitating on? Not because you don't know what to do, but because you're waiting for permission. And what might happen if you gave yourself that permission to the fullest? The full conversation with Galen is waiting for you on YouTube. So hit that play button and get inspired. Section 3, influence is the legacy. One of the most underrated leadership questions isn't what's next, it's what remains. In this final clip, Galen talks about what makes your influence stick. Spoiler, it's not your title. Let's take a look.
Your loved ones pass away, or let's face it, your health might not be the same as it was 10 years ago. So although you may dream of climbing a mountain, in 20 years, I might not be in a position where I can physically do that. Mm-hmm. So rather than saving your money for this mystical, magical someday, create a situation where someday is today.
Yeah.
And how can you get a version of that experience now? Because one of the things that the author talks about is that experiences are like annuities, right? Where you get dividends. You get a dividend from an annuity. I had an opportunity to take my mom on her first trip outside of the United States. I've been blessed to travel to several different countries, and I've had a great experience with my wife and with my daughter, but my mom had never left the country. And so I set a goal that this year I want to take my mom on her first trip outside of the United States. So had to do some organized planning, had to get a passport, had to kind of iron some things out. And so we made that happen. But I'll tell you, here's where the dividends come in. 3 months before we took that trip, my mom was telling all of her friends about where we're going. She was so excited. She was buying clothes and imagining herself on the beach in those outfits. So that was an annuity. When we went to the Dominican Republic, she was sitting there on the beach drinking a frozen drink with an umbrella in it, And I don't know why, but every time she had to put her little pinky in the air. I don't know why that pinky had to go up every time, but she had to put the pinky in the air. That was an annuity. And we went earlier this year, but for the past 5 months, I can't get on a call with my mom without her talking about something that happened in the Dominican Republic. And I don't even know that the things that she says actually happened.
Well, she had her pinky up in the air, so it made
right.
happen.
But those are dividends from that experience.
Yeah.
Now the alternative to spending that money, because trust me, I spent a whole lot of money than I probably should have spent, right? I spent a whole lot of money more money than I was planning to spend. But the alternative to spending the money on that experience was I could sit at home with a nice whiskey and put on some jazz music and look at my financial statements.
It was probably about 2007 when Alice became a flight attendant. I also heard a whisper of, do not delay the experiences. I was starting to see many people in the office hitting their retirement age and leaving the organization. And I began thinking about those things that Alice and I would do once I got to that age as well, as we were approaching empty nesters and once we retired. All of those thoughts were some days away. Then, when we began to go as a family to visit Alice on her overnights in different cities as her being a flight attendant and flying on her benefits, and we started taking longer trips, I realized our some days could be today. The big aha came when I was able to take my daughter Ashley on a 5-day trip to Paris for $1,000. That moment shifted my mindset to always seek a hard yes versus an easy no. And I put that in my book, 10 Power Stories. Later, I would have my dear coach, when he lost his wife, his someday had just come because he had just retired. And a few months right after his retirement, she lost her life in a snowmobile accident. It was devastating. And I wanted to ensure that with the time that Alice and I have, and let me be clear, we don't know the time we have left on this earth, that Alice and I enjoy the moments along the way and not wait for someday. Today, I'm the non-rev husband. I enjoy making home wherever Southwest Airlines lands, but I digress. Let's get back to Galen. Galen said, people don't remember your title, they remember how you made them feel. That's a Maya Angelou quote. And whether or not they could trust your voice in a moment of chaos. If lesson number 1 is about amputating what doesn't serve you, and lesson 2 is about stepping into courage, then this one is about leaving a mark that actually matters. He could have stayed at home making moments with his spreadsheets, or he could take his mom on an unforgettable trip. Your legacy is being written right now. Every meeting, every decision, every reaction. Do you build trust or tax it? Do you lead with listening or with control? Influence doesn't come from the mic. It comes from the moments you could have been quiet but chose to show up anyway. So here's your last question. If they erased your title tomorrow, would your leadership still be felt? If you want more of Galen's wisdom, the full video, of course, is on YouTube. Trust me, this one stays with you. Keep on inspiring and come back on Tuesday for your accountability check-in. Go forth, inspire your world. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.